Welcome to Orphaned Entertainment, the podcast dedicated to public domain and abandoned media. I'm your host, Christopher, and joining me is a woman who can't be substituted. It's Lydia.
I was sure you were going to say something about being super lonely, and I was ready to rock into that. You remember that old song that started with the Chipmunks? Lonely, I'm Mr. Lonely.
I don't think I remember the Chipmunks doing it.
I don't know if it was a remix or what, but hi.
Hi, Lydia. Okay.
And we're back.
Orphaned Entertainment is available wherever you get your podcasts, and if you have the option, please consider leaving a rating or review. It really helps more people discover the show. We have a YouTube channel where you can watch many of the movies we've discussed on the podcast. Just go to youtube.com and search for Orphaned Entertainment, and you will find it. If you'd like to reach out, we'd love to hear from you. You can send comments, suggestions, or even a recorded message to orphanedentertainment@gmail.com. You'll find links to all our social media accounts and ways to support the show financially in the show notes, or you can just head over to orphanedentertainment.com for all those same links. Let's listen to an Ellery Queen 1-minute mystery and a promo for another podcast. And when we return, we'll see if two timing is twice the fun when we tune into 1931's Lonely Wives.
Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries. This is Ellery Queen with a case I call the Genuine Article. A rich American woman named Carlyle came to me to check on a man who wanted to marry her. He claims he's a member of the House of Lords, she told me. He's shown me photos of his manor house in Scotland and an apartment in Edinburgh, but seriously, I think he's a fraud. What makes you so sure, I asked. She replied, he told me he was elected to the House of Lords. They're not elected, they're appointed by the Queen. What do you think? In a moment, my answer.
Hi, I'm Brad. This is Josh, and we are the host of the We'll Bring the Popcorn Entertainment Podcast.
Each and every week, we'll be bringing you the latest stories from the world of TV and film, as well as breakdowns of the TV shows that we're currently watching and all of the films that are hitting theaters that we go and see as well.
You can find us on YouTube, along with all the popular podcasting platforms. For our social media, anything else you want to know about us, you can head over to willbringthepopcorn.com.
We drop new episodes each and every Monday. We hope you'll take the time to check us out.
In the case of the Genuine Article, the man was indeed that. He was from Scotland, where some members of the House of Lords of the British Parliament are elected. Miss Carlyle, now Mrs. McTavish, has moved to Scotland. Listen again to Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries.
Lonely Wives is a comedy produced by Pathé Pictures and released in 1931 by RKO Pictures. The film was produced by Pathé, but its release was delayed due to the acquisition of Pathé by RKO. Marketing of the film included tie-ins with manufacturers and retail stores and had promotional material provided by companies such as Underwood Typewriters, John H. Woodbury Toiletries, and Joe Kerr Laboratories Beauty Products. The film stars Edward Everett Horton in a dual role as Richard Dickey Smith and Felix the Great, Maud Eburn as Mrs. Mantell, Esther Ralston as Madeline Smith, Laura LaPlante as Diane O'Dare, and Patsy Ruth Miller as Kitty Minty Minter. Richard Smith is a married, well-known, well-to-do, no-nonsense lawyer by day, but once the clock strikes 8 p.m., he becomes Dicky, a fun-loving and flirtatious cad, which is a bit of a problem for his live-in mother-in-law, Mrs. Mantell. She is very fond of Richard, but knows of his affliction and does everything she can to rein him in. On a particular night while Richard's wife is away on holiday, Richard's new secretary, Kitty, learns of this transformation from the butler, Andrews. She contacts a friend of hers who happens to be looking to split from her negligent actor husband and suggests that she might be able to flirt her way into an inexpensive divorce. After meeting the woman, who turns out is the actress Diane O'Dare, Dicky agrees to help and makes a date with both Kitty and Diane at a swanky hotel later that night. Before Richard can sneak out for the night, Mrs. Mantell reveals her plan to keep him in for the night and promises him that a big surprise awaits him. Promising to stay in for the night, Richard's late-night escapades seem dash. Until Felix Zero, a vaudevillian impersonator, visits asking for permission to impersonate Richard in his act. He demonstrates his ability to turn himself into Richard, and Richard sees this as a fantastic way to allow him to sneak out. Convincing Felix to stay there and fool his mother-in-law, he sets out for his date with Kitty and Diane. Is it Diane or Diana?
It's Diane.
It is Diane. Okay,
It
thank
is.
you. My notes bounce back and forth. I think my autocorrect kind of jumped in here and there.
And also they say Diane O'Dare, and it sounds kind of like Diana Dare.
Back to the synopsis. Things get really complicated when the big surprise of Mrs. Mantell is that Richard's wife has returned home from her trip early. What began as just a scheme to juggle responsibilities and romance quickly spirals into a whirlwind of misunderstanding and confusion. Edward Everett Horton was a character actor and comedian with a long career in radio, film, television, and voice work in animated cartoons. He was a student at Oberlin College in Ohio, majoring in German, when he was asked to leave after climbing the top of a building and throwing a dummy over the wall, making everyone believe that he had jumped. He returned to his home state of New York and attended Columbia University. During the Varsity Show of 1909, Horton got, as he put it, fouled up. He said this was the first time that I had really been on stage. After that, to put it gently, Columbia and I came to an amicable parting of the ways. They were just as glad to see me go as I was to get out, and this ended his college career. He filled his time afterwards with vaudeville and Broadway performances until 1919, when he moved to Los Angeles and began working in some Hollywood films. His first starring role was in a silent comedy called Too Much Business in 1922. Between the years 1927 and 29, he starred in 8 two-reel silent comedies produced by Harold Lloyd for Paramount Pictures.
Oh, lovely. Lovely Harold Lloyd.
Absolutely. He transitioned to sound films while working with Education Pictures and also found work with Warner Brothers, where he appeared in several films. Horton starred in many comedies throughout the 30s, but may be best remembered for his supporting roles, including in films like 1931's The Front Page, Trouble in Paradise in 1932, Top Hat, Arsenic and Old Lace, and It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. I mentioned that he did voice work for cartoons. Many might recognize his distinctive voice as the narrator for the Fractured Fairy Tales that aired as part of the Rocky and Bullwinkle show from 1959 to 1961. At the time of Horton's death in 1970, he lived on the same property that he had for the past 45 years. He had purchased a large estate in 1925 and called it Belly Acres, spelled Belleigh. In the late 50s, he was forced to sell a couple acres to make way for the Ventura Freeway. His niece, who was an attorney, negotiated the sale, and Horton insisted that he never be told how much the state paid him. He wanted to continue to believe himself financially uncertain, so he'd have the incentive to keep working.
How interesting.
Esther Ralston was primarily a silent film star. She began her career, as many do, in vaudeville in a family act billed as The Ralston Family with Baby Esther, America's Youngest Juliet. She began working in silent films, including one alongside her brother in a 1920 adaptation of Huckleberry Finn. And she gained attention as Mrs. Darling in a 1924 film version of Peter Pan and began working for Paramount Pictures. She appeared mainly in comedies, often as a spirited society girl, but also received good reviews for dramatic roles as well. She did make the transition to sound films, but was mainly relegated to supporting roles. Her last leading role was in 1933's To the Last Man, co-starring Randolph Scott, with his supporting cast that included Noah Berry, Buster Crabbe, and Shirley Temple. She made her final film in 1940, Tin Pan Alley, and chose to retire from films. She continued to work on stage and in radio throughout the 40s. She returned to the screen in the 1950s, albeit a smaller one, with guest appearances on the television series Kraft Television Theater, and had a leading role in a short-lived drama in 1962 called Our Five Daughters, and this would be her final screen appearance. In 1985, Ralston released her memoirs and revealed that the reason her career faltered after moving to Sound Pictures was that she had been gray-listed by Louis B. Mayer of MGM after she refused to sleep with him. While she still found work, it was mostly with minor studios or small roles with major ones. Laura LaPlante made her acting debut at the age of 15, and a few years later, in 1923, was named one of the Wampas Baby Stars. That's WAMPAS. We've talked about that a few times throughout the show. And now she appeared in over 60 films in the next decade, mostly with Universal Pictures, and became one of the studio's most popular stars. She moved over to Sound Films, but found that the huge influx of young female stars made it very hard to compete. She moved to Britain to work in film for Warner Brothers and on stage. LaPlante starred with Douglas Fairbanks Jr. in 1935's Man of the Moment, and was considered to replace Myrna Loy when Loy was thinking of leaving the Thin Man series of films.
Wow, that would have been different.
Very different. LaPlante's career pretty much stalled out and she retired from film in 1935, making only 2 films after that. In 1957, Spring Reunion was her last film. Yeah, I read that about the Thin Man and her taking over for Myrna Loy. I'm like, wow, I've seen that entire series of films, and picturing anyone other than Myrna Loy in that would be...
It's impossible.
It's absolutely impossible. I'm kind of...
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that Miss LaPlante couldn't have done it, but I definitely would have missed Myrna Loy.
Oh, it's like imagining Shirley Temple as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, and you just go, what would that have even... that could make no... It just wouldn't make any sense in today's world. But there's an alternate universe out there where that happened, and yeah.
That is all the little background and stuff that I could find. You know, all our actors have just brief mentions here and there and everything, but those were the ones, especially Edward Horton here had the longest and most extensive notes available. But I understand you have some tidbits.
I have a little bit. I do want to point out Andrew's in this. He looks a little familiar. He was in a ton of films. He was in 226 films. Almost all is just little bit parts, like Andrew's in this. This is probably one of the bigger parts he was in. But everything, like he was in High Sierra. He was in just a whole bunch of things. The Hunchback of Notre Dame from Notre Dame, excuse me, sorry, from 1939, but not playing the main roles for the most part. So it's really interesting. He's just there in so many movies. He was in one of my favorites, The Prisoner of Zenda, though if you ask me which one is my favorite version, just guess. Anyway, it's so much fun to see all of these movies that he was in. The other little things, a couple of things are in this movie, and I'll bring up some of those as they go, but the thing that I especially know Edward Everett Horton from, you didn't mention, which surprised me. Yes, he was in Top Hat. Another probably more famous Fred Astaire movie that he was in was Shall We Dance? And as soon as I saw him in this movie, the first thing I thought of is the scene where he shows up at the hotel, walks up to the manager of the hotel, and the manager says, Cecil Flintridge, and bows. And he goes, I beg your pardon, Jeffrey Baird. And they go back and forth for a minute until finally he says, my good man, I don't know who you are, but I am Jeffrey Baird. And he says, well, I am Cecil Flintridge. And that whole exchange like always cracked me up. And then he's not even on scene for the second and much funnier scene in that movie. He's not even on the screen for it. But there's a part where Cecil gets arrested through, of course, a whole bunch of, shenanigans, and is on the phone trying to tell Jeffrey Baird where he's being held by the police and trying to spell it out. You guys just have to see it. If you've not seen Shall We Dance with Fred Astaire, it has Ginger Rogers, who is one of the great comedic actresses of any era. She's phenomenal. Some of the most iconic dance scenes in all of film history. If you haven't seen it, go freaking see it. But then those scenes with those two guys, almost every scene with Horton in it makes me giggle. The very, very, very first scene in the whole movie is him walking in to find a porter drawing a mustache on his portrait. and it's just hilarious. So he has been part of my repertoire without even ever knowing his name until now for most of my life. And he is just hilarious. I love his bit parts. I don't know what it is about him that's so funny. Of course, he does some hilarious faces. We don't even see that in this. He plays a very serious character through the vast majority of this movie. So it's really interesting to see. I didn't know he had played any leading roles. I just know him from Top Hat and from Shall We Dance. So that was a lot of fun. That's so much fun to see that. I just want to, again, shout out, if you haven't seen Shall We Dance with Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, and, of course, Everett Horton, go see it now because it's worth it. In fact, you could shut off this podcast and go do it, but don't.
I'm going to go now. So.
Yeah, okay, actually, we're done. This is the end of the podcast. We're going to go watch it. No, I'm kidding. That was the big one that I had for you. There's some other incidental things that happen as we go through the film, so I think let's talk about that, and I will do my best to bring them up as we go through the timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I didn't in my initial notes when I wrote them, I didn't notice this, but if you look at the credits as the film begins, it says that this is based on a stage play. And I'm looking at the notes now, and I'm realizing that I absolutely just kind of missed over it in my research or whatever. It was brought to the American stage, and it definitely feels like I could see where this would be a absolute hilarious stage play.
Yeah.
It would work so well on the stage.
Yeah, there's very little scene change in it. The only other scene I can think of besides there's like the front hall, which is not necessary to show. And then the only other scene change is when they're in the dinner at the hotel, and that's a very brief scene as well. So I guess there's an outside the house too, but again, all of the extra locations could very easily have taken place in the same room with the very conveniently located 3 doors in the background with his room, her room, and the adjoining bathroom between. And when he's explaining that to Zero, he says, stay here. I'll pay you $50 if you can convince my mother-in-law that you're me. And he's walking him through, this layout of this room. And it's his room, his wife's room, and the bathroom. And they connect together through the bathroom. And Zero says, they connect. And he says, well, sure, we're on good terms. I love just all of the little jokes about marriage where it's like they have separate rooms, but they still have adjoining rooms because they still talk, don't they? I love that kind of stuff. But even before that, this is another one of my little tidbits. I guess we should back up to how much do we want to get into about the Wiggle?
Oh, the Wiggle. That was hilarious. I got such a kick out of the mother-in-law. And, well, first of all, there's just the dialogue in this film is brilliant in so many places.
Good evening, Andrews. I hope you haven't kept Fred dinner waiting for me.
No, ma'am.
Is Mr. Smith finished yet?
He's having his dessert in his room.
Dessert in his room, eh? Well, thank heaven I got home before 8 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a minute, Andrews. I'll take this. It's a new phonograph record. But we must not let him grow tired of the other one.
No, ma'am. A man can be reminded too much of anything, even a wife.
Dessert in his room, eh?
Pardon me, were you looking for someone?
Well, certainly not for you. I had no idea that Mr. Smith was entertaining lady friends.
Well, I'd hardly say I'd gotten that far. I'm only here on trial.
Trial?
Yes. He promised that if I made good today, he'd keep me.
Keep you? Oh, I see. You're the new secretary.
Well, of course. What did you think?
Well, if you knew my son-in-law as I know him, you wouldn't blame me for having misjudged you.
You don't mean he's a passion flower?
Well, he's no geranium. And if you're wise, you won't stay here another minute.
I don't mind. I get paid double for it.
Nothing could pay you for what might happen. You're not at all the sort of a young woman that should be around here after 8 o'clock.
You'd be surprised.
I don't know if Andrews meant that as the double entendre as it ends up having dessert in his room. Hey.
I love their whole exchange. She says something to her and she's like, "Oh, no, I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm just here on trial." He says if I do a good job, he's going to keep me, which of course we all know what a kept woman is. At least back then everybody knew what a kept woman was. And the mother-in-law is just horrified until Minty sits down at the typewriter and starts typing, and then she goes, "Oh, you're the secretary." Woo, okay. But then when Richard comes out,
Oh, hello, Mother. Oh, Mother, pardon my English. I thought you were in Newark.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. But, Richard, if you're not too busy, I would like just a word with you.
One word? Well, that's unusual, Mother. What is it?
I want to see you alone.
Well, that's impossible at the present moment, Mother. Impossible.
But, Richard, I have something very important to tell you.
Miss Minter, please. What did you do with those papers in the Randall murder case?
Richard, I have a surprise for you.
Oh, you're going home. Oh, splendid. Mother, please. Can't you see that I'm busy with Miss Minter? Miss Minter, busy, please. Busy.
Busy.
Mother, your suspicions hurt me. Now, what possible objection can you have to Miss Minter?
Well, I don't like her wiggle.
Her what?
Her wiggle, her walk.
Oh, I hadn't noticed it. Miss Minter, wiggle. That is walk, please. Oh, that will do. Never do that again during business hours. Never.
Yeah, never do that. And she says, "Oh." I love how everything comes out. I mean, at first I was thinking, okay, this is definitely going to be a Jekyll and Hyde kind of show. It just wasn't in the way that I expected it to be at all. But yeah, so we get to, she's already at this point called Diane and said, "Hey, come on, I've got a lawyer that pretty much you can pay him with a smile and a little flirt." We're going to assume, because this is 1931, that the audiences do or don't expect the double entendre there. There's definitely never any overt reference that anybody is cheating on anybody. But there is also the letter he dictates as soon as it turns to 8 o'clock cracks me up to Miss Darling at such and such a hotel. Please return my blue silk pajamas. And Miss Minty goes, "Oh, Mr. Smith," and he goes, "Which you borrowed for the charity ball." and the whole implication here is maybe he's actually cheating, maybe he's not actually cheating. But taking into account the title of this movie, it's moot. The whole point is that, you know, these are women who are left to their own devices, and in his case, also a man who's left to his own devices. So it's the innuendo through the whole movie is heavy and very amusing.
Very much, yeah. And I guess the whole moral of the movie is, stay together, don't go out individually.
People who play together stay together, maybe? Yes. I wouldn't have phrased it that way, but yeah. And so when Zero shows up, by this time, Minty has been chased off. Diane
there's one more line I gotta bring up between Richard and Minty when she's effectively just kind of wasting time until Diane shows up.
Oh, you have a pretty mouth.
Oh, I like your mustache.
Really? Well, shall we introduce them?
Or shall we make them acquainted or something? Yeah. Yes. And stop, because of course the mother-in-law comes
Mother-in-law
right at
comes
that
in just
moment.
at that moment, right?
But yeah, there's no, I guess remembering that line, there's not really any question if there's some cheating going on. Depending on what your definition of cheating is, there's at least some canoodling. Canoodling, that's a great word.
Oh, absolutely. And there's the other great line when right before he actually asks her out, he says, what are you into tonight? And her reply, nothing I can't get out of.
What do you have on tonight?
What do you have on
nothing I
tonight?
couldn't get out of. It took me the second time watching it to go, oh my. Oh, because he's asking ostensibly what she's doing, but it definitely has the double entendre.
And I think what's fantastic is, yes, all these lines are, many of these lines are completely innocent, but the way the people say them, there is no doubt in your mind what they mean.
What
Her
they mean.
reply was
Absolutely.
very particular.
Yeah, and I'm jumping the gun just a little bit here. This is probably the second most witty movie I can think of after The Lady Eve, which is, as you guys already know, one of my all-time top 5 will never be replaced movies. It's so great, and the dialogue in it is so stellar. But this is up there with that, and interestingly does not share, as far as I'm aware, any production cast at all with that movie. Usually when we run into a movie where we're like, oh, this is really good, you know what it reminds me of, then we look it up and go, oh, that's because
it was written by the same,
as far as I know, they're not related at all. So that's a lot of fun to find another one.
It isn't just the dialogue. There's also some really good, just, I guess you would call them sight gags, or just the way the people carry their styles, or the things that they're doing. There's some really great glances and just, facial expressions from people. When we're introduced to Diane O'Dare, Minty calls her on the phone and she's busy trying to put together a scrapbook. and it's this great, almost like I Love Lucy thing with her in the glue getting stuck to the paste getting stuck to this thing, and it's on one hand and then it's on another, and she holds it down with her face, and then it's stuck to her chin.
Yeah, and it's such a great scene because they don't overdo it. It doesn't feel like it really doesn't feel like a visual gag, even though it is a visual gag. It feels like you're really just watching this lady talking on the phone and she just keeps getting stuck. It doesn't get overblown to the point that you're like, oh, wah wah. It's actually really funny. And watching it the second time, I went, this is a brilliant way to get you through a conversation that is just rehashing. Like, they're literally just info dumping. But they do it in such a way where in other movies of this period, you would see the person standing there talking on the phone. But in this movie, you have this whole kind of involvement of, will she actually ever get this piece of paper stuck on this other piece of paper? It's a brilliant direction move, and it has to be something that they did for the movie, because how would you do that on a stage play? Like, there's no point to it on a stage play, and especially with the distance for the audience. So there's got to be, I think there's some really good directional choices in this film. I think you literally just said that, and I just repeated you.
Yeah, I could definitely see where if this were on the stage, you wouldn't have that scene with Diane.
No, you'd
have Minty on one side of the phone, right?
Yeah. Yep, and you would just hear her side of it. So we're just going to produce this as a stage play after this, guys. So we're just hashing it all out.
It needs to come back to the stage, is what I'm thinking.
It does, and I thought about that today, that the one complication of this is we haven't even talked about Zero yet, but Zero is played by the main character and obviously could not have been on the stage. So it's an interesting choice and an interesting cinematographic, I always struggle with that, a cinematography choice to do it as a split screen, and it is done exceptionally well. I've seen worse split screens in the 60s. Oh, easily.
I'm thinking of what's the Disney? Is it a Parent Trap?
Yeah.
There's some obvious splits where you can see the split, and it doesn't quite match, and you can tell the eye lines aren't exactly where they need to be and everything. this film, it's nearly flawless.
It is so good. And I would be interested to know in the history of split screen where this is in that timeline, because I feel like it's pretty early. I mean, I'm sure there were silent films that did it, but not with the back and forth dialogue, which is really complicated to pace correctly.
I would pay money to see how they came up with and did the bit when the guy is looking at the other guy and you see his reflection in the mirror.
I've thought about that. I was thinking about that today. Did they not just cut the piece out and literally tape it?
They would have had to.
They had to have done it that way. And we're in an era where there is no CGI at all. There are very, very, very limited special effects, and most of the special effects come down to actual cutting. And that has to be what was done here, because there's no other way to do it. It's not like it's a projection that is then mirrored onto the mirror. It is a very, very clean image of him. So yeah, it would be really interesting to see. I think it just has to have been cut.
No, it has been, but it was done so well that it doesn't look it. In 1931, you expect to see rough edges. You'd expect to see the picture jiggle a little bit or something like that. But it is solid. It looks like something that you could do today easily. I could go upstairs with Adobe Premiere, and I could have something that done in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It is that good. It's that clean. And then his responses when it is a true split screen are timed so well. Watching it the second time, the first time you're caught up like trying to understand what's going on in the storyline and the dialogue. But the second time watching it again, it's like, his responses, like there's the fact that we know that it's the same person, our brains want to tell us that it's a split screen. But his responses and the timing are so good. And I think of the only other person I can think of that got that kind of precision was Fred Astaire with his practices. Famously, there's that one shot where they show him with 3 different practice rounds next to each other, and Fred Astaire's dancing is spot on. There's almost zero variation because he would practice so hard for it. And this feels like that's what happened too. I don't see how else they could have timed it that well. Like he had to have just done it in his head perfectly.
Well, I think you got to give some credit to the editor who, had to splice these things together.
But I didn't see any cuts. Like when he's talking to himself, you don't see where either side like kind of skips, like they caught up time. It's like he filmed it in a single go and then filmed the opposite in a single go. And yes, they put them together skillfully so that they were lined up, but he had to get the timing right to talk to himself and make it feel natural.
Yeah, no, it is, I think, just a master class in acting and editing and directing.
It is.
I think it's all 3. Probably, maybe there's even more.
Yeah. Well, in acting, not only him acting, there are 1 or 2 moments I can think of in this movie. We're like already at the wrap in this conversation. We're going to have to back up a little bit. But I can only think of a couple of spots in this movie where I felt like it was like severely overacted or maybe not as good of a response as it should have been. And really only one sticks out in my head. But let's get back to Diane.
Okay. This is Laura LaPlante. This is an actress who I had not seen before that I can remember. I don't think we've come across her before in any of our other films.
Not that I can think of.
This is an actress that, whose career was didn't I say was a little relatively short?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at her and thinking, this is an actress I would love to see in like dozens of films because, one, I think she's really talented and she's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I would think directors would be clamoring to get her in front of the camera in their films, just so they could have her face on the poster.
Literally the only thing in her lineup that I may have ever seen was Showboat, and it's the old Showboat. And so it's not the one we all know that was famous for being the first mixed race couple on the screen. It's not that one. It's the black and white one. And I don't remember it. I may have seen her in it, but she's phenomenal. she's honestly, every girl in this movie was perfectly cast. I can't, even when Madeline does show up, and she's delightful. And even Mrs. Mantell, like, she is, every woman in this movie is
pitter patter, pitter
patter. But baby's footsteps on the stairs. Baby footsteps on the stairs. I love her being a doting mother-in-law. Like, you never get that. And I love it. 1.0 asks him, he says, oh, my mother-in-law's so hard on me. And Zero says, oh, she's trying to get you out of the house. And he says, no, she's trying to keep me in it. And it's so good. The casting in this is so, so good. And so you mentioned the acting of Edward Everett Horton is very good. The acting of pretty much everybody in this movie is excellent. Even the taxi driver, who is a bit part at the end. You almost don't see him at all. He's just perfect in this movie.
And I felt so sorry for Andrews, the butler.
Being literally driven to distraction. It makes you wonder why he sticks around, but he is heavily drinking from the beginning of this movie.
He's 3 sheets to the wind at what we can only assume is very early in the morning by like the second or third act of this film. So he's probably been up all night sipping from his flask.
Well, one of the scenes we see, Richard calls out to him. He says, bring us a he has minty cordial. And she says, yes, I'm very cordial. And he calls for Andrews to bring them a drink. And Andrews says, it's Mrs. Mantell's order that there not be a drop of liquor in the house. But we see him chugging the last of a glass of liquor before he goes in to tell Richard that. So he's just drunk the whole time. I guess that's how he ends up being there, or managing to stay as much as he does, is just being just dead drunk. You know who I don't see in the cast, which is kind of interesting? She is listed in IMDb, but she's uncredited in the film, is the maid. They have a French maid in the film, played by Georgette Rhodes, whom I've never heard of, and who was probably not in very much. She was in a few things. Interestingly, in some French things. So she might actually be French.
Okay.
Yeah, actually in a number of French things. So she might actually be French, which is a surprise.
I tried to look the other way about that.
About her being French or not.
Yeah. About her being French. What was it that the mother said? I knew she was French, but I tried to...
yes. Which is very, very funny. And then it turns out she actually may be. Georgette Rhodes doesn't sound like a very French name, though. So that's interesting.
No.
But, I feel like I could just gush about all the people in this movie.
I think it is one of the best, most well-cast films that we've seen in quite a while. There really isn't a single person in this film that I would have like to see someone else in that role. Maybe that person doesn't quite work. But no, everybody was just spot on throughout the entire film.
It feels like you said this movie is a masterclass in several arenas, and I think casting is another one. I don't know. It's just gold. It is. So I guess let's get on to the plot. So Zero shows up, successfully impersonates Horton, and as soon as Smith, and then as soon as Smith leaves, then come to find out that Madeline, his wife, has surprised him by coming home early. But of course, it's not Smith in the bedroom; it's Zero. And the whole thing, him just trying to hide. Like, you kind of gotta love Zero, because here is Smith out philandering while his wife is gone. And Zero is leaving his wife alone at home, but he's out trying to get work. Like, he's like trying to get permission to impersonate this guy. He thinks it's going to be this great thing. And then he's like, he's making money. He's out there actually doing something. It's not like he's off philandering. And so when it comes down to it and Madeline is like, where's my big welcome home kiss? And then kisses Zero, you're like, well, I mean, that's fair. That seems fair to me. Like, and then it just goes from there.
It's a plot that's difficult to sit here. Like many comedies, it's hard to describe comedies and to actually feel like you're actually suggesting that it's fun.
Doing them justice. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you can do the play-by-play, but it's hard to get the humor. It's hard to get the humor across, especially in a podcast. I think it's interesting that Horton started off in vaudeville, because we definitely see a number of vaudeville people come through this podcast and go, well, we can see why they were on vaudeville or in vaudeville. And with him, it's like, no, he translated extremely well to comedy. And I have to think that even though, yes, he's got all the facial expressions, and you can definitely see a couple of spots in this movie where there are carryovers from the 1920s silent films in the expression and a little bit of the acting. It doesn't feel heavy-handed. I'm sorry, my cat walked in and distracted me. You're just going to have to cut this explanation. That's why I'm like staring sideways, like, what are you doing? She just, yeah. Okay, sorry. I just was waiting to see if she was going to get her paw caught in something, and she didn't. So that's good news. Okay. Sorry, vaudeville, humor. So in his case, I think it's you can see some of that facial expression, but it's appropriate. He reminds me a very little bit, of and interestingly, another tie-in, Maude Eburn, who plays Mrs. Mantle, was in one of my favorite Danny Kaye movies, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, is a bit part. But the acting there reminds me, for Edward Everett Horton, reminds me a little bit of Danny Kaye. Like, their facial expressions can be over the top, but it suits the moment. And the comedy is just there. It's just so spot on. Makes me wonder who was the writer for Edward Everett Horton, because Danny Kaye's wife famously was his writer and did a lot of his bits and his songs, and so it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if Horton came up with his own gags.
You know, we've watched many films and we've talked about looking and seeing and what we feel like are the foundations of things that come later. And I think you really see that on display in this film. His double takes, his reactions, his sort of, you know, the surprise kind of like, startled, you know, whole body jump and everything. Yeah. This is the kind of stuff that you see in sitcoms today.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think, you know, you can sit there and talk to the modern actors and comedians, and they'll say, and they'll pick some classic comedian from this era or whatever. But not many of them are actually going to go this far back. But yeah. I'm going to guess that a lot of their inspiration probably got their inspiration from somebody, if not him, maybe they're 2 or 3 degrees separated from someone like Horton.
Yeah, people like to reference, oh God, I had his name and then I lost it. Buster Keaton. People like to reference Buster Keaton. And then... Yeah, but then you don't think about Edward Everett Horton. Guys, the name is so hard to say. I keep stumbling over it. Or like Harold Lloyd, who, you know, again, like we're going to keep coming back to him because he's just phenomenal. But I think the very, very, very early black and white comedic actors that stuck through. I mean, you know, again, Horton's showing up in a couple of movies that are still very famous, you know, that still do very well with classic film aficionados. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that coming back to him and coming back to, gosh, I still keep thinking about when we watched the Marx Brothers movie, Coconuts, and I was just blown away by how funny it was. Because I was expecting a Three Stooges kind of comedy, and it was clever and witty and a lot more like this. And I wish that we were doing more of these stinking films with good dialogue. But there's not a lot of great dialogue to be had in our modern society. Gosh, that's so depressing to say out loud. Where are the great dialogue writers? There have been a number of them, and they have been phenomenal. And there are TV shows, more, I think, from the 90s and 2000s, maybe the 2010s that we think of, that had some real good quippy lines, that they weren't just trying to make a statement or do a caricature. And I want those people to be writing for film. And I know that there must be some out there. There have to be some. But the comedies that we have today are not this level of funny and witty and clever to me. And so, again, let's plead with Hollywood. Dang it, Hollywood. Do something clever for once.
I think what would be fun in a lot of, later comedies and more modern comedies, when you've got someone with like a double entendre, like you hear in these films,
Yeah.
people say it, but no one else in the room gets
Reacts. Yeah.
I think what's a lot of fun was like this one where, like, oh, what do you got on tonight? And her reply, nothing I can't get out of. It doesn't just go on her. It's not, oh, she just said something innocent. It's I heard that. I'm going to turn and look back at you.
Oh, really? And
I'm
I
gonna
think he even comments on it, and he keeps talking about, oh gosh, loose moments. And it's much more stated. I think there's a lot of fun. Gosh, guys, I don't want a soapbox, but I'm gonna. Sorry. So if you don't want to hear my little, I'm gonna try not to rant soapbox. Just skip it 30 seconds. But we are so sexually uptight right now in our society. You cannot make a sex joke without people either being offended by it or mostly offended by it. And so it would be really hard to do that kind of thing where, especially in this, I'll call it social climate that we're in right now, any hint of, for lack of a better term, infidelity is immediately seen as like horrible, evil, bad. And it's like, this is a lot of this movie. Yes, you can read it as being very much about cheating. You can also read it as being very much about people just going out to have fun in public with other adults when their spouse is out of town. And that concept today immediately equates to cheating in a way that is very restrictive. And so at that time, you could go out and we don't have a lot of the venues that they had back then. There's not really anywhere to go out and dance. You can't go dance with a pretty girl or with a handsome man somewhere, because that just doesn't exist. Most of the venues that we have are specifically focused toward a much more serious kind of connection. But in these movies, there's that fun to it, that flippancy and that amusement and hilarity. And I wish we still had something like that. I can't think of a venue that exists like this where, taking a woman out to dinner that isn't your wife now is immediately like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. And I'm not implying that it wasn't serious back then, but as its focus is in this movie, it's much more about just being free and having fun. And we don't have that kind of representation, certainly not in film today. And I think also not in society. So that was the end of my soapbox. Thank you for nodding along with me.
Thank you for coming.
Let's open
Thank you for coming to my Lydia talk.
Yes, let's open a
speakeasy. Yes.
We'll open a speakeasy and it'll just, and part of the difficulty is, I won't keep going. But yeah, it's too bad that we don't have that kind of thing often anymore, because let people have fun, let them be adults together, but also then be allowed to be adults without immediate censorship. Censorship was what I was trying to say. And again, okay, now I'm off the box. Thank you for going with me on that. One thing that I did notice, which you may not have noticed while we were watching this, when Diane goes to Minty's house to tell her, oh, yep, I made a date with the lawyer, and Minty says, oh, I had one too. And she says, yes, I know, that's why I was going. When Diane walks into Minty.
Oh, I love this line.
I love the line. It's so cute. She says, are you decent? And Minty says, no, come on in. But she goes in, and Minty, even before she goes in, Minty is humming a song. Did you recognize the song?
I did not.
Anybody? I'm going to give you guys like 5 seconds to say, oh, I know what it was. It was Fit as a Fiddle from Singin' in the Rain.
Oh, fun.
When I heard it, I was like, why do I know this song? Why do I know this song? Right before we started recording, I went, it's from Singing in the Rain. So that's another one of your little tidbits.
That's awesome.
And here's another tidbit. I'm backing up a little bit in time to share this one with you. When Zero first puts on his makeup to pretend to be Smith, and Smith looks at him and says, "Oh, why? Remarkable." And he says, Richard Smith and Richard Smith. We could be the Smith brothers. All right, if you guys know anything about me, you know that I'm going to go Google that. Smith Brothers, 1930. Guess who the Smith brothers were? They produced cough drops. And immediately after this, Smith starts coughing. And so people in this era would have been like, the Smith brothers, and then he's coughing. He needs a cough drop. It's just like anything that we would say today, and people would just immediately get it. So if you guys want to check out our materials from this show, I have found an ad for Smith Brothers cough drops, and we'll share that for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely put that in along with the episode when it posts. Yeah, there was a couple moments that is a nice little maybe subtle plug. There's some not so subtle plugs. I forget. I'd have to Google to see what it was. But he's constantly asking for coffee and a glass of White Rock.
Oh, I think I didn't even understand what he was asking for.
I had to Google it. White Rock beverage was a sparkling water back in the 1930s. It was a sparkling beverage,
non-alcoholic, I assume.
Yes, correct. But it was asked for.
Not to be confused with, this is not a sponsor, White Claw.
Yeah. But if White Claw would like to
if you'd like to sponsor us, bro.
But yeah, it was asked for by name a couple times. And it's really interesting knowing that in the marketing for this film, they were having tie-ins with like the Underwood typewriter, which was, of course, seen very very obviously at the beginning of the film. And then they were talking about where they posted, there's a great poster in Wiki from Joe Kerr Beauty Arts, and it's got the three actresses and talking about, the shade, different shade of hair for it's a hair dye product. So they had all these little tie-ins and everything. And so they actually see the film and have them doing very obvious product placement in 1931 was really interesting.
That is interesting. So it is interesting because I did not know that, and it didn't jump out at me. So I think it's probably two things, right? If you were from the era and you knew the products, it's like today we see, we started watching, what was it we started watching? And in the background, there was just a massive, again, not a sponsored Dasani water bottle dispenser, like a big, machine. And I was like, do you think that's the sponsor for this movie? Do you think that, that company like paid a bunch of money to be to be the vending machine in the background of this scene? And it was some random zombie movie. Anyway, a total B zombie film, by the way. But I thought, I think for audiences at the time, they would have noticed, but it's for people today, just like the Smith Brothers joke, unless you go and Google it, you're not going to know. Actually, technically that is product placement, but it also is just a gag from back then, right? Oh, Smith Brothers, ha ha ha, now I start coughing.
It was so interesting. It seems like something that's so prevalent in today's stuff.
Oh,
and
gosh,
and it's done with like a big hammer. How do you get there? Well, all we got to do is plug it into our Ford whatever GPS, and it's just, oh my God.
Yeah, on Psych, we would crack up every time they'd bring up the blueberry because it's so obviously product placement, but it is also just silly. So why not?
I'm not in any way saying that the White Rock was subtle. I mean, there were other product placements that were much more subtle. Just the fact that they had the typewriter and you could probably see the name of it. But yes, so what? The Smith Brothers with the cough drops is a little bit more subtle. But yeah, I need a White Rock. Would you like a White Rock? I'll take a White Rock. Yeah. it was hilarious. This is 1931.
Yeah, that's really fun. It's always interesting when you see something that is shoved in the face of the viewer. We were watching, a really cute Kelly Macdonald movie, which I had seen a dozen times, and it's her and David Tennant. They're both writers, and they both, in like 2014, both are there typing on typewriters. And I'm like, what the crap? And they're like on an island. These people hauled these typewriters on a boat to this island to type on a There's no way, not in 2014. But
No.
yeah, I don't know. I guess everybody thinks all of us writers write on typewriters, and we do. We do.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, my little Smith & Wesson. Is Smith & Wesson a typewriter? Oh, gosh.
I think that's an oil. Or no, wait, is that the gun? I think it might be both.
Winchester is the gun for sure. But yeah, Smith & Wesson, yeah, now I want to know.
I think that's a firearm.
So guys, tell us, drop it in the show, or in the show responses. What's your favorite typewriter brand? This is not a sponsor. That's the title of this episode. This is not a sponsor.
But the only criticism I'll give this film is I do feel like the ending started getting a little farcical. It got a little slapstick at the end with the big chase scene and going through the doors and up the stairs and down, and everyone's jumping all over each other. And
But you knew that was going to happen when they showed 3 doors in the background. You knew it was going to happen, especially with the connecting rooms. It was going to happen. Does it go a little bit long? Probably. But I cracked up because they're running all over. One of them's got a gun. Speaking of Smith & Wessons, one of them's got a gun. Smith is chasing Zero because he finds out that Madeline kissed him. And they're all running away. And then Diane's trying to climb out the window. The taxi driver's trying to get his money. Like, it's just total mayhem. And at the end of it, you see everybody's running one way and then running the other way. And then Andrews is running after them. And I swear, he doesn't know why he's running after him. He's just like, everybody's running this way. I'm going to run this way too. And it actually really made me laugh because it's just so silly. There's no reason for him to be running after everybody else, but he totally does.
and he has the ultimate comedic run. It's that run where his back is bolt straight and his legs are actually like in front of him.
Going. Oh yeah. So yeah, definitely it devolves into some mania, but we kind of knew.
Yeah, maybe, but I did laugh a little bit because I don't imagine it was scripted. I imagine it was just everyone now run up the stairs, and they go to run up the stairs, and Mrs. Mantle, Maude Ebert, actually trips on the stairs, and whoever's behind her literally jumps over her to keep running up the stairs, and then she gets up and follows. I'm like, oh, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah. So it is a hoot. It does definitely devolve into some silliness, and we always knew that was going to happen because actually, when I first started watching the movie, I did not know it was a comedy. And then as it went on and you come to realize what's happening, you're like, this is going to get very silly. There's a man playing his own, effective twin. So yeah, it's not going to be too serious. And I think it works. I think, yeah, you might not love the ending, but you may not love how the ending resolves itself. But I loved how the ending resolved itself. I loved, and I'm going to try not to give any spoilers away here because this is one of those movies I think you should go watch. But the reason that things happened the way they happened is so satisfying. So in the end, I love a movie where the people that deserve a little comeuppance get a little comeuppance. The good guys win, the bad guys lose, all that kind of stuff. Even though we know maybe in real life that doesn't always happen, it should happen in movies. That's the whole point of movies. Thank you, Sullivan's Travels, for teaching us that.
And the way this film ends, I love the fact that there's some dialogue that takes place kind of midway through the film that still works.
Mm-hmm.
even though it means something different than what you think it means. Madeline is talking to her mom about what happened the night before, and like, I finally have something to keep my husband forever, and Mrs. Mantle thinks the same thing we do. The whole, I'm not going any further, but it's so good. But by the time you find out exactly what she's talking about, it's like,
wow,
I love it.
Good job. Yeah. I loved all the women in this movie. The line I think we can spoil near the end of the movie is Minty saying, "Well, I'm glad I'm not married."
Mrs. Mantle, "I'm glad all my husbands are dead."
It resolves so well. The women, I really appreciated that. Silliness aside, there are just people being people in this movie. You don't feel like there's a caricature. You don't feel like there's a real moral to the story. There is a little bit of a moral to the story, but it's not being shoved in your face. And it's just a good old fashioned hoot where everybody kind of, it's a what's the right word for it? It's just a comedy where things happen, and it happens for good reason with great dialogue.
It came at just the right time. It snuck in there right before the Hays Code started really becoming prevalent in Hollywood. Yeah,
I think
another year later, this film could not have been made. You would have had to have someone. I mean, these people would have had to die in a tragic bus accident or something for their infidelity or whatever.
Were we talking about Penny Serenade? Because oh Lord, but yeah, it's like, come on. No, I think you're exactly right. And that was kind of why I was waffling with the date. I was like, is this before or after the Hays Code? But with the dialogue that's in it, I still don't know how the Lady Eve got away with it. There are things in that movie that probably shouldn't have been able to happen. They snuck some things by the censors, by the skin of their teeth. This one didn't have those restrictions, and it just is. I'm just going to keep using the word fun. It just is a lot of fun. Even Andrew's eventual complete total nervous breakdown.
Meltdown.
You're like, I don't blame you, bro.
Please take the money. Please take the money. Tell me this isn't fake money.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So yeah, so that's Lonely Wives. It's not what I was expecting, and I'm really glad, because I actually thought it was going to be I really thought of the First Wives Club, which, by the way, great movie, but that was kind of what I expected, was that or the Women or something like that, where
you're expecting more of just maybe a humorous drama, but not a outright comedy.
I work really hard not to go too hard into the details before I watch a film. And so, yeah, I think by the time I watched it, I had forgotten that it's a comedy, which is not a bad thing at all. So, yeah, I just had a lot of fun with it. Every time I watched it, I was like, you could make a movie about wives being left home alone, and it could be a very, very, very different movie than this. And I'm glad that it wasn't.
And this is also a film where I don't have any hesitation going ahead and giving it a 5 when it comes down to the ratings.
Really? Oh.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. I'm totally joking.
Oh, there's no faking this one, Lydia. No, everybody knows.
For a second.
It's so much damn fun. It is absolutely a blast. It is just not something you maybe would expect coming out of the era in which it was made. The dialogue is just, bar none, some of the best I think I've ever heard. The acting is fantastic throughout the entire cast. I enjoyed watching it from beginning to end, and this is one I will go back to on occasion, just to revisit every once in a while. It's definitely in my top 5 of the films we've covered.
Ooh. Yeah, I think as dialogue goes and as casting goes, it's really hard to beat this for comedies. I mentioned Coconuts. another great movie. It's interesting because I'm with you there on the Five Oaths.
I'm sorry. It's just, you just mentioned coconut today, and it was so funny. There was a couple times in this movie that it made me think of the coconuts because at one point Andrews had given Zero's coat to the tailor for something like that, and Taylor and a couple times says, "I want my coat," and all I can think of is the coconuts. He wants his coat.
Dun, dun, dun. That is hilarious. Yeah, it's also not a movie where I think there's not anything shocking in it. Like we didn't go into it expecting it to be really bad, and it turned out really great. It's kind of funny. It's almost weird how just like, oh, this is just a good movie. Like there's not. Yeah. It's almost hard to talk about for like an hour because it's like, okay, so we could just gush about it, but. If you haven't watched it,
I feel like we kind of did.
We did. And I'm like, again, I mentioned there's like one scene I can think of where something is a bit over the top. You mentioned that the kind of chase scene at the end, which I think you're right, on stage, that would have been hilarious. Mm-hmm. Just hilarious. The way that they film it, you see a little bit of the behind the scenes, but it would have been, it's the 3-door gag. It would have been so funny on stage to have them going in one and out the other. And I think that might be why it doesn't work quite as well in the film, is because they do show you a little bit behind the scenes. And we're all expecting it to go the way it goes because it always does. It's a 3-door gag. But there's so little about it that is truly shocking or truly bad, and there's so much about it that's a lot of fun. I've said the word fun way too many times tonight. Just way too many times. So 5 Oaths from both of us, and that is Lonely Wives.
Yeah, excellent. All right, I think we'll go ahead and just wrap it up before we start just going back and gushing again, over things we've already talked about.
Oh gosh, go watch Shall We Dance. Again, I can't say that enough. We always mention movies on this podcast that we can't cover because it's just outside of the topic. But, go watch those two. They're so much fun. And I think anything else that you could find, really anything with Horton in it, with any of these actors would be really fun to visit. I would encourage it.
Oh, absolutely. I think I will try to dig up some of the films, the few films that, well, I say few films. Laura LaPlante actually did quite a few films, just not for many years.
Yeah.
But I think I will definitely try to see if I can find a few more of them. Just because I just kind of want to just keep watching her.
Yeah, she's so cute. She's just really, really cute. And I thought earlier...
Oh, she's hilarious. Her drunk acting is hilarious.
Oh, gosh, yes. I thought earlier, too, that Esther Ralston really reminded me of Alice Eve. There are a couple of shots of her where I'm like, gosh, if they were going to make a movie about Esther Ralston, they should use Alice Eve for her because they look so much alike. Different makeup styles, of course, in the different eras, but really, really interesting to see. Yeah, all of these would be so fun to go back and see. I definitely need to look up some more Spencer Charters, and I'll go back and obviously now I have to rewatch Shall We Dance. I can't not. It's such a great movie.
Excellent. All right, well, that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Lydia, thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast.
Thank you. It's the same for me. It's always so fun to talk about these movies, and I'm so happy that anybody that's tuning in is listening along with us. We love hearing your feedback. If you disagree, let us know. If you agree, also let us know. You don't have to disagree and send us an angry email, although I hear it's good for ratings. So we haven't had one of those yet, so gosh.
The only one I can think of is way back when there was someone that was upset because I didn't enunciate the email well enough or something.
And you do a really good job with the now orphaned with a D at the end, entertainment. It was good feedback, though. We probably found more listeners because of it.
But we will talk to everybody in another month. Thank you very much for listening. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh,